Good morning, good day, good night, good afternoon, people. You know I'm what you need. You're watching my channel, you can subscribe to it. If you like this video, you can share the video, comment, but most importantly, excuse me, you can donate. Now, you may notice that I continuously circle. So you'll see the camera circling. That's because usually we're in a square circle, right? Right? It's boxing. All right, we're going to talk about some really stupid stuff I've heard people say concerning the Porter-Spence fight. And I just thought I'd highlight these things because I don't think any other channel is doing so. So first of all, I heard the very stupid comment by several people that Errol Spence should have kept Sean Porter at the end of his jab. Um, how are you going to do that when the guy's slipping your jab? How are you going to do that when the guy's bobbing, weaving past your jab? How can you do that with him at the end of your jab? Errol Spence kept on throwing the jab religiously. Porter kept on pivoting out the way, slipping, bobbing, weaving, etc. There was no way Errol Spence could keep Sean Porter off of him. No way. His jab wasn't working. His left hand wasn't working. So Errol had to fight Porter on the inside when Porter wanted to fight on the inside. The difference was Porter could box Errol. That's why Porter was mostly on the back foot. Errol had to fight or in-fight Porter if he wanted to do any work. So Porter has many different types of jabs. And Porter uses feints. And so because of that, and he has good footwork and he's quick. And so Porter was able to stay out of the way of Errol Spence's jab. I remember on Barbershop Conversations, there was a guy from Toledo, Ohio, who was explaining to the other guy how Errol Spence cannot cut off Sean Porter if Sean Porter doesn't want him to cut him off. The guy was saying that Errol Spence just needs to go to the right of Sean Porter, or Sean Porter's left, his right, to cut off Sean Porter because Sean Porter is not good at going to his right and Errol Spence's left. That turned out to be baloney, we learned. And Porter, like this guy from Toledo, Ohio, says it's just simply take a step back and cause and reset, and then whatever he wants to do, he can do. It's just called distance control. A lot of times, Errol Spence's jab would fall short, and then Porter would counter him. Like I said, Porter's a combinational counterpuncher. So it's not easy. It wasn't easy for Errol Spence to box Porter. That sounded like it was easy. Even Kenny Porter said, it would have been nice if he could have boxed us. Then it would have made it easier for him. But it wasn't going to happen because Sean Porter is a fighter who will get to the inside of you. And that's what I was trying to explain to you guys concerning Canelo and Sergey Kovalev. So it's a very stupid statement to say, oh, well, all Errol needed to do was box Sean Porter on the outside. The other really dumb statement I heard was, that Errol Spence was fighting Sean Porter's fight. Do you understand it? Errol Spence even corrected it. He said, I'm an inside fighter. That's what I do. I land body punches. Sean Porter's also an inside fighter, and he also lands body punches. And he landed quite a lot, actually, more than I expected. Actually, some of the body punches weren't clean, but he landed a lot of body punches in Errol Spence. I was kind of shocked. I don't think CompuBox is doing justice to how much body work Sean Porter actually landed on Errol Spence, which is why Errol Spence was at the end of the fight also tired, as was Sean Porter, which is very interesting because both of them were clinching. Anyways, what I was saying is that Errol Spence wasn't necessarily fighting Sean Porter's fight as much as Sean Porter was dictating the action, especially early in the fight. And then later on in the fight, Sean Porter was basically engaging whenever he wanted to on the inside. So what I would say is when it comes to the guy who was dictating the fight, it actually was a Sean Porter fight. Now, another very, very stupid thing I heard people saying is Errol Spence beat Sean Porter at his own game. I don't think so. I don't think so. Otherwise, he would have dictated. And he did not dictate. Errol Spence wasn't dictating anything. So while Errol Spence won this fight, mainly because of the supposed knockdown, because Sean Porter was actually winning that 11th round. And I had Sean Porter winning quite a lot of rounds, actually. So At the end of the day, I think Sean Porter actually beat Errol Spence, like the judge said. But I had a smaller margin. I had Sean Porter winning 7 rounds to 5, 114, 113 because of the knockdown. Um, it would have been 115, 113 without the knockdown, but he got knocked down. I thought it could have gone split decision win for Sean Porter, but it could have gone the other way with Errol Spence because he knocked down Sean Porter. It was kind of like, if Sean Porter just didn't rest his hand on the mat, this would not even be a discussion right now. But it became a 10-8 round because his hand just touched the mat as he went down. The guy is ox strong. He did not get hit in the entire fight with a left hook like that. The reason was he just dropped his guard enough that Errol Spence was winging that left hook and caught him. And kudos to Errol Spence on that. I mean, that if for a casual fan watching boxing, that would be a definitive win right there. I think that's why Errol Spence actually won the fight, because a lot of the rounds, it depends on what you like. Actually, that's how you would score the rounds. I thought that Sean Porter was landing more punches than Errol Spence actually, and was the busier fighter throughout the whole fight. He made the fight much more exciting than it would have been with some other opponent. I think Errol Spence, the one thing you can say is Errol Spence did not dominate Sean Porter, right? All of us agree on that. Not only did he not dominate Sean Porter was pushing him back several times in the fight, hurt him several times in the fight. Errol Spence was hurt several times in that fight. Errol Spence knows that. Um, and Errol Spence hurt Sean Porter too, don't get me wrong, but not as often. But because Errol Spence hits harder, he was able to drop Sean Porter in the 11th round, which Porter was actually winning. He was tagging up Errol Spence. He proceeded to tag up Errol Spence after getting knocked down, and in the 12th round also proceeded to make it very competitive. And again, it's just what you like. If you like a guy that throws a lot of punches, lands a lot of punches, but they're not always clean, then, if you like Marcos Maidana, let's put it that way, then this fight went to Sean Porter. If you like Floyd Mayweather, this fight went to Errol Spence. That's how it goes. Okay? So I thought Errol kept his composure. The one beautiful thing in this whole fight was Errol kept his composure, really kept his composure in the fight. Sean Porter actually should be credited with his defense. His defense is pretty good. Just the way how, even when Errol had him in the corner, wailing away at him, he actually had his elbows tucked, protected his body quite well, caught the punches, and that's why he was able to swivel out at a certain point in time and then turn the tables on Errol. However, at certain points in the fight, Sean Porter was not able to do that. He tried to swivel out one time, and Errol wrestled him back into the corner. Errol didn't get to throw off punches, but the point is, because Errol himself was tired, you could see it. You could see his two hands, and he just how he was approaching Sean Porter. You could see he was tired, and he was gutted, but he was just going to dig it out. And both guys showed a lot of heart, a lot of guts, not just skill, but a lot of heart and a lot of guts. I mean, and both of those guys looked like they could have gone another 12 rounds if they needed to. It would have been dog hard 12 rounds. Somebody would have got knocked out, I think. I think if this was a 15 rounder, I think Errol would have worn down Sean Porter a little bit more. But then, considering Sean Porter and just the kind of fighter he is, I don't think you can really stop Sean Porter in 15 even. I think it could have been that Sean might have stopped Errol in 15. You just never know. Because Errol was starting to get tired. I can tell it. Both guys were tired. After that, you heard Errol saying that he should not balloon up in weight between fights, because then that takes a lot of time to get down in weight. Even though I thought Errol was well prepared, he said he was on weight days before the fight, so that was good to hear. But I would say this, that this fight between Sean Porter and Errol Spence was a fantastic fight. Errol, of course, being a very calculated body puncher. And I thought that his punches had some effect on Sean, not necessarily in the middle rounds, because as the fight was coming to an end, it had some effect on Sean. Because when Sean turned the tables on Errol, I think it was in the 12th round, he did one set of work, and he just leaned in on Errol. But Errol himself was tired as well, and they were just kind of gunning it. But I thought the 12th round was exceptional. These guys were trading punches, and I mean, these were bombs, okay? They were trading bombs at each other, and it was just crazy because they do both have defense, and still at the same time they were bombing away at each other. And so I just thought that it was just fantastic. No, I'm a southpaw, but I decided to circle to my left. So I'm circling to my left. Yes. Thank you very much, Tommy Temper. That's a good observation. If you like what you're seeing right now, please smash the like button. Anyway, back to what I was saying, because I think a lot of people are now starting to appreciate Sean Porter, but they're still saying a lot of stupid things. Like I heard Akai TV say this was Sean Porter's best performance. First time I've seen him really be effective with the jab. And I'm listening to Akai TV, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? This man always has a great jab, always. Adrian Broner fight, Keith Thurman fight. How do you think he backs up his opponents? And I just didn't understand some of the things that these guys say. Another thing I heard people say was that Sean Porter, he's not a very skilled fighter, but he has so much heart. And I'm like, no, he is a very skilled fighter. If you're talking about a plethora of skills, Sean Porter has a whole lot of skills. He may not have all of them developed because he has so many, but he's more. I would say he has more skills, not more home skills now, but more skills than Errol Spence. Errol Spence doesn't have as much skills as Sean Porter has. And he also doesn't have as much gifting and talent as Sean Porter has. But what he does have, he's solid in. Anyways, so those are some of the things some people said. I'll give you some more stuff that was just really irritating to me, and it was a little bit annoying. I was listening to some people say that the first round and the early rounds went to Errol Spence, and I'm like, how could that possibly be? How can Errol Spence have the early rounds when Sean Porter is the one who's boxing him? Sean Porter is the one who's turning the tables on him and landing punches on him. How can you give the early rounds to Errol Spence? Well, they were close rounds and stuff. Okay, some of the rounds were swing rounds, but you can't say that the early rounds went to Errol Spence. Errol Spence was still trying to adjust to Sean Porter. He was getting tagged up upside the head. So round 3 was a perfect example of that, where Sean Porter dominated that. In round 4, he dominated round 4. Landed combination after combination of Errol Spence's head and his body. I mean, so you can't say that Errol Spence won the earlier rounds? That's stupid, man. He definitely didn't win round 3 and 4. Maybe he won round 2. Maybe he won round 1 because he didn't throw much punches there. But Sean Porter kind of established that he could box Errol Spence on the outside. The thing that all you guys were saying he couldn't do. Yeah, he had the shorter arms and so on, but it has to do with timing, it has to do with rhythm, it has to do with countering, right? Errol Spence's jab wasn't a factor in this fight. Do you guys realize that? His jab was not a factor. Sean Porter's jab was a factor in this fight. Sean Porter was able to cut the right angles to catch Errol Spence with the jab. And what was going to shock some people when Canelo faces Kovalev is how effective Canelo's jab is going to be in the fight with Kovalev. Because Kovalev is nowhere near as solid as Errol Spence is. And you tell me, is Errol Spence a better body puncher or Sean Porter a better body puncher than Canelo? I'm just saying. Anyways, that's another story for another day. I keep on just giving you guys reasons why these fighters will win. I don't just talk out of my ass. I literally talk out of reasoning. The guy from Toledo, Ohio, he had a point. Anyway, let's go back to what some of the stupid things people say. So there was no way, if you had at the end of 4 rounds at even, that makes some sense. I could see that because you could say, okay, I'm gonna give the early rounds to Errol Spence because Errol Spence was the one being the aggressor. Yet he ain't really land much, but he was the one walking down Sean Porter. You could look at it that way. All right. I could see round 2 going to Errol. Round 1 I gave to Sean Porter. So the first 4 rounds of the fight, Sean Porter was up ahead on my scorecards. All right. But anyway, that's besides the point. My point is, they were saying early in the fight, Errol Spence got the rounds, and then later on in the fight, Errol Spence got the rounds. How on earth could anyone give round 10 to Errol Spence? I don't know. I don't even know how you give round 9 to Errol Spence if you have been watching what Sean Porter was doing. But hey, whatever floats your boat. You know what I'm saying? Now I could understand some of the middle rounds being given to Errol Spence. Even though Sean Porter was very competitive and he constantly answered Errol Spence, but he took a break in between, was boxing more than he was attacking Errol Spence. Now, anyway, my point is, those people saying that Errol Spence took the earlier rounds, I just don't see that. I don't agree with that. When we look at the fight itself, it was a fantastic fight. This is a classic. I watched it about 3 or 4 times now and really enjoyed it. And sometimes, I just wanted to enjoy it for the fight. And the fact that Sean Porter had an answer for everything Errol Spence had, and the both of them was going at it, And nobody had ever seen that with Errol Spence. Errol Spence generally would dominate, even an inside fight, he would dominate. And in this case, he was not dominating nothing. Sean Porter wasn't giving up an inch, a tooth, or a nail. Sean Porter was game. He was just banging away at Errol as Errol was banging away at him. I think a lot of certain punches that Sean Porter threw were not as accurate as Errol Spence's, not clinical, but they were landing. The other thing that I think judges were not scoring were the punches on deep in the inside, where Sean Porter would double up on the solar plexus, or he would double up on the inside of Errol Spence and throw like 3, 4 punches. And the thing about Sean is, unlike Errol, who kind of leverages and goes 1, 1, 1, Sean Porter will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So Sean Porter constantly is doing combinations. And I think that's the thing that makes Sean Porter a little different. So instead of just putting leverage into one punch or 2 punches, he would throw like 3 or 4 or 5 punches at once. Boom, 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 beep, 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 boom, 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 boom. Like that's how Sean Porter would go. And he's very vicious with his punches, I gotta admit. And Errol Spence knows that. I saw Errol Spence back the hell off of Sean Porter. He was walking him down to the ropes, and Sean Porter caught him with a double right to the head. And his head snapped back, bam, bam. And he just, Porter didn't play. Spence didn't play. He backed the fuck up with that. Because I think Errol Spence had respect for Sean Porter because he wasn't sure if Sean Porter would counter his ass, right? And Sean Porter's a guy, he got moves. So he can spin the tables on you. He literally kind of gives you a counter move to what you're doing. He can counter whatever you do. And I think that's what made Errol, because Sean Porter, according to Errol Spence and Keith Thurman and all these guys, he's not really the heaviest puncher out there, right? If that guy had a little bit more steam in his punches, he'd be like Mike Tyson. He'd be knocking out everybody. But Porter's not the most hardest puncher out there, yet he's not a pity pat puncher. So he put leverage into his shots, so you feel them shots. Your head will snap back. It gets your attention, and then he throws so many of them that you could be stunned, or you could be a little bit confused by the barrage of punches you're being hit by, and wondering, well, what the fuck is going on? I'm trying to go in here, land a punch, and I keep on getting bopped upside the head multiple times. So I think that's what makes Porter so intimidating, and why guys back off of him. And Errol Spence decided I ain't taking a step back, but he did, and he clinched, and he held, and he hit low blows. Oh, round 2 was terrible. At first, because the referee was biased towards Errol Spence, I found he didn't really give Sean Porter a fair shake, but it is what it is. At first, Errol Spence landed 4 to 5 low blows on Sean Porter, and the ref said Sean Porter was pulling down his head. So Errol Spence continued to just land blows on Sean Porter throughout round 2 until the referee realized what was going on, stopped it, and said, hey, hard warning, no more low blows. You hit him another low. And he went back in round 3 and hit him with a low blow again. And so I don't know if he was trying to soften up Sean Porter or what, but Sean Porter didn't buy into it, and he just kept on fighting. And I really appreciated that about Sean Porter. He made no excuses. Kenny Porter made no excuses, and they just fought through all of that, which was amazing to me. Because that's what I call dirty fighting. Errol Spence was fighting dirty. And I think he was intentional in what he was doing until he couldn't get away with it. And I just don't think that Sean Porter is intentional about anything. As to the cut that happened, which was, I'm not too sure how that cut happened. Again, I didn't think that Sean Porter was intentional in doing that. I think it was in round 10. But, man, what a fight. Let's talk about some other things that people say. So people said that, I heard a guy say the fight wasn't close. You know, the Sean Porter didn't do enough work. That's AKI TV again. You know, amazingly, D-Style boxing, he was shocked. He was shocked at the end of the fight. And I was listening to SMB boxing or SBM boxing. I can't remember which one it is. And the other guy, he was, talking about Errol Spence and how, Errol Spence wasn't walking down Sean Porter early. And it was a lot of people making a lot of fucking excuses for why Errol couldn't get Sean Porter out of there. And I found this, man, sometimes the logic behind it was so stupid because you could easily debunk it. Because from round 1, Errol was trying to walk down Sean. Errol was the guy in the center of the ring walking towards Sean. So I heard people making all kinds of stupid excuses about that, and I found it was retarded. Excuse me for a second. I gotta go to the bathroom. Come back. Yeah, so there's some really stupid stuff people say. A lot of stupid things people said about Sean Porter. One of the stupid things I heard was, well, Errol Spence, if he would have faced Manny Pacquiao, he would lose to Manny Pacquiao. He shouldn't face Manny Pacquiao now. As I said, D Styles was shocked. He saw how close the fight was, and he thought the knockdown made the difference. I personally thought that the fight was close, but I thought that Errol Spence actually lost more rounds than Sean Porter did. I actually had Sean Porter winning the fight, just as how I had Keith Thurman winning the fight against Manny Pacquiao. But I'm not mad at the result because Sean Porter did get wobbled and buckled. So, Errol Spence pulled away with that, even though Sean Porter was winning that round. Let's talk a little bit more about some other things people were saying and are saying. Don't forget to smash that like button, people. About Errol Spence versus Sean Porter, which we must debunk immediately. So, a lot of people are not giving Sean Porter credit for his skills, which is why they're saying some really stupid things like Errol should have boxed him and so on. But one of the things that they said was that, Sean Porter has a lot of heart and he's got a lot of determination. So Errol Spence didn't have a lot of heart and a lot of determination. He won too. So that's a null point. I think that Porter showed us that he's got defense. Even though he's a very aggressive fighter, he's got his hands up most of the time. He's got a good chin and all of that, but that's not the most important thing. Hybrid 95 says Errol didn't get exposed though. Yeah, we know that. I mean, I talked about that the very first time. I said Errol didn't get exposed, but Sean Porter has proven to us that he's elite. He's a great fighter. He ain't no fucking street fighter, and he ain't no fucking club fighter. Okay? And that's all I was trying to say. And a lot of people didn't want to hear me at the time. They say, oh, he's going to get knocked out. H Money still owes me something in the bet. I don't know if he's going to duck and hide from me, but he needs to pay up. We'll see. I don't know. Hybrid 95 says Errol didn't get exposed though. Fernando Montero. Shout out to Fernando Montero. How you doing, brother? How are you guys doing this morning? That was a really good fight. Worth the pay-per-view. Yes, sir. The body shots made the difference on Errol's side. The body shots made the difference also on Porter's side. You can't disregard Porter. Errol was just as gassed as Porter was. Just as gassed as Porter was. Porter was beating his ass in the 11th round. Porter beat his ass in the 10th round. If you're being honest. And Porter was beating his ass throughout the fight. Oh, cool, man. Glad to hear that. I'm doing okay. I got to go to work myself, so. But I'm just saying, both guys, when have you ever seen Errol Spence being duked out on the inside? Another inside fighter being able to do work on Errol Spence and backing his ass up and landing headshots, right? Sean was doing some great work. Errol was getting fatigued too, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about. They were talking about how Sean Porter's strategy was to smother Errol was to tie him up and hold him. That's not true at all. If you look at the majority of times in the fight when there was any holding, I'm not saying Sean didn't hold when he got later on in the fight when he was tired. I think especially in round 11 and 12 he held, he initiated holding. But for the majority of the fight, who was the person doing the majority of the holding? Okay then. Okay then. Errol Spence was doing the majority of the holding because he couldn't handle Sean Porter's offense. He couldn't handle it. And the intensity of Sean Porter, who was backing his ass up, right? So that's one of the things that I did. And then he talked about Sean Porter was smothering Errol's offense. Actually, it was Errol who was trying to smother Sean Porter's offense. But Sean Porter started landing body shots inside there, and Errol would try and tie his ass up. And one of the things I did not like about the referee again was he was warning Sean Porter for holding, when in fact it was Errol that was doing the majority of the holding. And then he would turn to Sean Porter, and if Sean Porter actually locked up Errol, he would actually come down on Sean Porter. And it's only later on he warned Errol about pushing down on Sean Porter and punching him at the same time. But he wasn't doing that before. And all I'm saying is, if it's going on in the fight and you don't want to call it, then don't call it. But be consistent. Don't be calling one person and you're not disciplining the other person. I just felt like the referee was kind of like against Sean a bit. Not to say that's it, the referee is a human being, and maybe it's just me. But Sean came in to lose as far as they're concerned. Errol's supposed to win. So Sean, what I mean. You know what I mean. And so I find some of these things. That's why even though I say Sean won the fight, and I still maintain that Sean Porter won that fight. And of course, you can make an argument for my claim because one of the judges had it 115-112, which is 8 rounds to 4 for Sean Porter. The other two judges had it 116-111, which is 8 rounds to 4 for Errol Spence, when you include the knockdown, right? So, 8-4 one way, 8-4 by the other two judges the other way. They had it. I think both sets of judges had it a wider swing than I would have had it. I think it would be 7-5 either way, right? There would have been no draw because it was a knockdown. And I could argue that case because even 6-6, Errol might have had it 6-6, and the knockdown would have made the difference. Because some of them rounds, man, it's what you like. It's what you like. And I thought Sean was the busier guy in there. I don't know how Punch Stats had him throwing less punches than Errol, but he was the busier guy in there. And when he threw combinations, whereas Errol, he would throw one punch at a time. Sean would throw sets of punches at a time. Errol would be clinical and working the body, coming off his left hook or his straight left after he threw his jab. Then he would throw hooks on Porter on the inside, or if they're infighting, so on the ropes, he would throw hooks. But not all of those hooks that he was throwing on Porter were going to Porter's body. He was blocking a lot of those hooks and catching a lot of those hooks. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Porter was actually doing some pretty good defensive work, even on the ropes. That's why he could spin out on the ropes and then turn the tables on Errol Spence and throw his combinations on Errol. And I'm just saying that, a lot of people ignore that. I remember Keith Thurman talking about how Sean Porter threw 3 consecutive uppercuts on Errol Spence. And I remember that too. And then he followed it up with an overhand right that smashed Errol Spence in his face. And I'm just saying that, all of these things, I don't know if the judges actually picked it up or if they thought about it. A lot of people say those punches weren't clean, but when you see it in slow-mo, they short, compact punches that actually split Errol's guard and actually did snap his head back. But it is what it is, It is what it is in boxing. Anyway, let's just talk about some other stupid things people say. So another very stupid thing I heard people saying about this fight was that Errol Spence, he would get beaten up by Terrence Crawford. I think that Terrence Crawford is not ready for these guys right now. He has faced no one to prepare him for these guys. I just don't think he's ready for them. And these guys that we're talking about are big guys. The reason why Sean Porter could handle Errol Spence's power is because he's bigger than Errol Spence, and Errol Spence hadn't met somebody in the ring like that. And Keith Thurman is a huge welterweight as well. Danny Garcia is now really big welterweight, and then having fought these big welterweights, he could condition himself and strengthen himself to become really powerful welterweight. So I just don't think Terrence. I think Terrence is the smallest of them all. He looks big and strong. I know he's building strength, but I still think he can't handle these dudes right now. That's my personal opinion. I have no facts to back it up. I just look at the competition that Terrence Crawford has faced at welterweight, and he may look like a monster to those competition, but what happens when he faces the real competition? I remember Showbiz the Adult saying all those fights are going to be close fights. I don't know if all the fights will be close fights. What I'll tell you is, them guys, they've been battle tested, so I don't know what they're talking about. Hybrid 95 says, if anyone was exposed this year, it was Fury. The referee for that fight looked like someone died in his arms. I think Deontay Wilder said that Tyson Fury, that fight would have been stopped after that cut. If it was anybody else, I think Andrew Ward said the same thing. Fernando Montero says it was pretty even. I think Porter hurt him a few times. Yes, he did. That's why Errol backed the fuck off. and even after Errol had supposedly dropped Sean Porter, and he tried to go in for the kill, he realized, shit, this dude's still counterpunching my ass. He live as ever. And Sean said it. He said, let's go, ninja. Let's go. He was ready to go. It was go time. And Sean's the guy you can't play like you think you dominated him. Sean's not gonna allow you to dominate him. He's just not gonna allow you to dominate him. The only guy that's ever dominated Sean Porter, or controlled him at least, was Kell Brook. And he controlled him because he was clinking. And everybody who's faced Sean Porter has had to clinch up. They've had to clinch him up. Because there's no other way you can stop Sean Porter. And I mean, Sean Porter, Sean Porter showed us that he belongs at the top, you know, and those people who still trying to be dogmatic about Errol Spence. Oh, he won 8-4. Whatever, man. It was a close fight. It does demand a rematch. They need to do it over. So does Keith Thurman to Sean Porter. So does I think Sean Porter win by split decision over Danny Garcia as well. Or I think Keith Thurman had unanimous decision, but 7-5, 7-5, 7-5. If you got a split decision win, you should run it back. I don't know if Errol will run it back with Sean right now because that doesn't make no sense. But he should run it back with Sean either before he goes up to super welterweight, which I hear a lot of people saying he is. That's what he really is. I don't think he makes it at middleweight. I think middleweights are too big for him. But I think that Sean now, he can go all the way up to super middleweight. But I think his career is going to be a short one because of so much the high throughput he has to have and the fact that he takes a lot of punishment and that kind of thing. So I think Sean Porter's career is going to last maybe another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then he's going to shut it down. But he's a hell of a fighter. All right, so let me give you guys some other misnomers that they have been saying about Sean Porter and Errol Spence fight. I heard some people saying that, Fernando Montero says, does Crawford have a next fight yet? It's supposed to be Gavaliauskas, but it could change in the drop of an eye. So we'll see. Thurman said he beat Porter cleaner. What do you think? Well, based on the judges' scorecards, he didn't have a split decision. So that's, I think, what he meant. He had a unanimous decision. So that's what he means by he beat him cleaner. I think he's talking about the judges' scorecards, not necessarily the fight itself. I thought that none of them fought and beat Porter cleaner. Neither. Kell Brook's probably the only guy that really cleanly beat Porter. But, Sean Porter could have won that fight with Keith Thurman. It could have gone either way. Split decision either way. It's what you like. Because he did some good work on the ropes against Keith Thurman. He had Keith Thurman on the ropes. He had Errol Spence on the ropes. You know what I'm saying? So, those fights could have gone to Sean Porter. But, Sean Porter kind of is, as we can see, they seem to cast him as a B-side sort of opponent. He's not supposed to win certain fights or something. I don't know, man. They always talk him down. Kenny Porter did a great job with him. I like that Sean Porter was so gracious in defeat as Kenny Porter. That's the way how you do it. You don't make excuses. Whatever the judges say, that's what it is. And you move on to the next. The people will be able to decide for themselves what really went on. You know, you can't get a draw in a fight where there's a knockdown. Maybe if there's two knockdowns by the two different opponents, then yeah, you can have a draw. But you can't have a draw once there's a knockdown. Uh. So here's some other things for people to consider about Sean Porter versus Errol Spence Jr. Fernando Montero says, "How do you think Danny Garcia will do with Spence?" He do all right. He do all right. Danny's a tricky dude. What would be ironic is seeing Danny walk down Spence. That's what's going to be ironic. You guys are going to be shocked by that because you know Danny comes from a lower weight class, but I'm telling you, man, Danny's a hell of a lot stronger now than he has ever been. And you know Errol Spence is going to be right there to fight with Danny, so it could be a good fight. Once again, I don't see Spence knocking out. Oh yeah, Danny. Oh, Danny Garcia could hurt Spence real bad. He hits hella hard, especially as he's acclimatized to welterweight now. He hits hella hard. That's what Keith Thurman said. So yeah, he could knock out Spence, but he had to connect with him first. Spence is not a guy that has slouchy defense. He has good defense. Even though Sean Porter caught Errol Spence, is because of just the awkward way and the quick feet and just the angles that Sean Porter put to the table, which is another reason why I think Manny Pacquiao would have a quick start against Errol Spence and a big lead. Could be tagging his ass up at certain points. Pacquiao's that kind of dude. And Errol would have to make those adjustments. And somewhere around the middle rounds to the late rounds, Errol would take over, but not without Pacquiao replying. You know, but Pacquiao also has quick feet, and that could be a problem for Errol Spence. But Errol and Danny makes for a good fight because, again, Danny's a counterpuncher. So it makes for a good fight. Van Hoss says Spence will have time. Spence will have time to sit down on his punches against Danny. Yeah, he would, but you don't understand. Danny's a harder puncher. I keep on telling people this, they just don't understand. Errol Spence is not the hardest puncher in the division. He certainly is not a KO artist. He breaks you down to the body. Errol Spence himself said that. This is what I do. I break you down to the body. He's not the hardest puncher in the division. Danny Garcia is the hardest puncher in the division. Danny Garcia is the hardest fucking puncher in the division. If Danny catches Errol, we could have some problems. But Errol's got good defense. And he's tough. But Danny's not Sean Porter. He's slower though. So but he got great timing. And he's a great counterpuncher. So, you know, it would be much more of a traditional boxing match. Orthodox versus Southpaw. But boy, that shit could go south quick. You saw what Danny did to Amir Khan. You know, Danny can do that to Errol Spence. But Errol Spence just got to avoid the left hook. And the right hand. And then he got good defense. So Errol Spence is not just going to go to Danny's body like that. But in the later rounds, when Errol Spence gets a beat on Danny, he going to put a beat down on his ass. He's not going to get him out of there, but he's going to put a beat down on his ass. Danny will still counter his ass, but he's going to put a beat down on him. Somewhere around 11th and 12th round. Yeah, that's when it really will pick up. Yeah, once Errol gets onto Danny's rhythm, that's when you're going to see Errol separate himself from Danny. That's my thoughts. But Danny hits hella hard. And if Danny catches Errol Spence, Have a good sleep. Nighty night. And Danny's that kind of dude. He got one hitter quitter power. But it's not very likely he'll catch Errol Spence like that. Unless Errol Spence is in the middle of a trade and he's not being defensively responsible, I don't really see Danny just gunning him down like that. You know, he's an elite fighter, man. He ain't no fucking Amir Khan, I can tell you that. He got defense, so Errol got decent defense, man. In a certain round where Sean Porter was throwing a lot of shots, Errol was either riding the shots or rolling the shots. I can't remember if it was round 5 or round 6. Then, when he thought Sean Porter was tired, he turned the tables and Sean Porter started bringing the heat. And then Sean Porter just spun him around and started landing them body shots again. Shocked Errol. Errol was like grinning and everything, like, oh shit. I thought he wasted his load. Yeah, Sean is trouble, man. Sean Porter is trouble. Anyways, we were talking about stupid things people say. So, yes, Spence will break Danny late, but he's not gonna stop him. Danny's just way too strong, way too determined, way too got too much heart. He's not gonna stop him. I kind of like what Lamont Pearson did to Danny. Spence gonna close the strong. He's gonna close the show strong. Spence is not going to stop anybody in the elite division from here on in. He was lucky to stop Kell Brook, but Kell Brook was an injured dude. He ain't stopping nobody else. You know, he's not stopping anybody else. It's boxing, man. But Danny will fight back, but Errol's a bad boy. Errol's a bad boy. Okay, so some other things I heard people saying that I thought was really dumb. They were saying that, you know, ooh, it's almost 1 o'clock already. That Errol Spence was, you know, that Errol Spence was don't forget to smash that like button. Yeah, Errol Spence was he was what am I doing? They gotta find new commentators for the fight. Yeah, some of them I find the commentary team sometimes is very biased, man. They be looking at one fighter and one fighter only. Not giving the other fighter a fair shake till much later on. You know, the only person who was really talking on behalf of Sean Porter was Jim. What's the name of the Jim? The Jim Goosen. Not Dan Goosen, the other guy, Joe Goosen. Joe Goosen was the guy that was realizing that Sean Porter was doing a lot of work, and he was responding. And then everybody else, Lennox Lewis and you know, the other commentary team started falling in to line. I'm falling asleep on myself. That's crazy. Yeah, so yeah, Porter, man, and Spence, great fight. Nobody's talking about the fact that I heard Dante's Boxing Nation saying that Errol Spence. Can't remember what Dante's Boxing Nation was saying. That. So it's something I didn't agree with that he talked about, but I can't remember what it was. Hold on a second. Some car stopped. Ah, oh, that's what came. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to say so much more, but I just got very, very sleepy. I had an energy drop just now there. And I just wanted to drop down and sleep. But I also have some gas problems today. It's a little bit unusual. Oh well. Yeah, so if you guys remember some of the silly things people might have been saying, or things you think people were saying which were not true, you guys could say it in the comment section here, or in the chat section. I'm trying to remember some of the other things I heard, which I really wanted to talk about, but I'm so kind of tired right now. I just kind of energy drop happened, and I just suddenly lost my train of thought. Some other things I heard, and I really want to talk about them. You know, I just can't remember what they are. I'm not hungover. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. I got sleep. I got sleep before 12. I think somewhere around from 9 till about 12:31. Then I didn't go back to sleep until around about 3 something. Because my stomach was giving me problems and I hadn't drank enough water. The place is really hot. So, kind of woke up overhung this morning. I tried to do some exercise, but still feeling very lazy. I went to use the bathroom about twice, but still I had all this gas, and now it's finally going away. And that's because for a number of days I haven't really eaten, substantial amounts of food. It was just mostly snacks and nuts and that kind of thing to lose weight. Because I was 158 yesterday, came down from 175, so I was trying to get to 154, and then when I drank the water, I started to bloat and all that. It was just really. There was other things I wanted to say, but apparently I can't remember what they are. I looked at the Boon Man. I looked at some of the other channels out there and what they were saying, and there was just certain things I wanted to correct, and I can't remember what they are now. It's terrible, But no, I don't think that Errol Spence was exposed. I just think people overhyped him. I think he thought he could get the KO, and that was never going to happen. I think that a lot of people, again, fans mostly, overrated him. But I knew that I know he's an excellent fighter. I know he's got all-around game. I know he's going to be a Hall of Famer when all is said and done. He's the best welterweight in the division. I know all of these things. What I'm saying, though, is that I think that Sean Porter, too, is as equally as top tier as Errol Spence is. And like some people were talking about the same things I was saying. If Errol could just be slightly more clean with his punches, just being a little bit more clean, not even more accurate because his accuracy is not bad. I think just a little bit more clean with his punches. I think the punch stats are a little bit off. I think Errol threw. I think Porter threw a lot more punches than. I think he threw a lot more punches than he got credit for. And I think he landed a lot more punches than he got credit for, which is sad. But he's not super clean. So even though I saw 23.5% or whatever it was for his connect percentage, I think it may be a little higher. Spence wasn't exposed. If anything, he showed more to his game Saturday. Yeah, he showed he was tough. He showed that he was game, you know, against Porter. You know, was equal to the task of Porter's aggression. He had to be careful what he was doing, so that Porter didn't really catch him with something. Um, I think Spence overall showed great boxing IQ. Uh, XX Raw 2013 XX. What's up? What's up, XX Raw? Shout out to each and every one of you guys. I just think that there's a lot going on in a fight with like that, and as the boxers tire, it's going to be who's going to make the biggest mistake. That's the whole question. This was a highly contested fight. You know. Oh, a highly contested fight between two combatants. That's what I think actually. Hey man, I think I need to catch some sleep all of a sudden. I don't know why I feel so tired, but I think I'm gonna shut it down. XX Raw says, great fight. I was impressed with Porter. Other than all of that holding he was doing. Well, that's the thing. Porter wasn't holding. It was Errol was doing the holding. Porter wasn't holding. I just addressed that. That's infighting they were doing, where you tie up your opponent and stuff like that, and you try to land punches and get position. Which is what I was telling you guys. When Errol pivots in to get position on Porter, Porter will pivot out. He'll pivot around Errol to get his positioning. So they were jostling for position on the inside, which was good. It was good stuff. Spence had to pull his and free his in the later rounds. Actually, the referee was telling Porter he's clinching when it was really Spence clinching. And no, I disagree with you. Spence didn't have to pull his hands free because Porter was trying to pull his hands free. Both of them were trying, at certain points in time, both of them were clinching up with each other. It's infighting, though. You generally clinch, and with the free hand, you throw punches. It is what it is. But, I thought it was good. It was good. I didn't think Porter was clinching up that much. I think Spence was doing more clinching throughout the fight, and he had to do it to hold the action. In fact, I remember Lennox Lewis commenting on how smart it was that Spence was actually clinching up Porter, which was very interesting. Yeah, man. Anyways, man, I'm starting to black out. So crazy. Got my set of water right here to drink, and then I got some more food to eat, and I'm gonna take a siesta, and I'm gonna get up and go and work. Spence goes to the body when he holds. That's smart. Yeah, but Porter was going to the body when he holds as well. They both were doing it. Like I said, both of them are inside fighters. Porter would throw more punches, but be less as, clean with his work. And Spence would throw less punches, but he wasn't as clean. Porter was spinning off the ropes way too easy. That was impressive. That's because he rolls under Spence's shot and pivots around Spence or step around him, and then just start throwing body punches and head punches. And he keeps coming at you. He doesn't give you no space, no room, no quarter, no inch. Just keeps coming. at Sean Porter. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to go. I know there was more I wanted to say, but I can't remember what it is I wanted to say. And I just suddenly had an energy drop. Porter got them football feet. Nope, it's boxing. Step around you. Yeah, man. Hey, I'll catch you guys later. Um, there's certain things Porter does that Joe Frazier used to do. If you look at Joe Frazier leaping with the leaping left hook, there's certain things that Sean Porter does that old school fighters used to do. You know how they threw the jab, how he throws his jab. Woo! Okay, it's time for me to shut down. I just dropped my phone. All right, guys. So you have a good one. See what if you'll say anything else. Thanks for the likes as well. Don't forget to subscribe and donate. I'm gonna catch you guys later. XX Raw, Fernando Montero, Vajos, Hybrid 95, Tommy Temper. Shout out to you guys, man. I gotta go.